like it, share it, the broadcast. So invite your friends and your not so friendly friends and tell them that Mayegun's brunch time is on. And again, just to remind you, the brunch time is also an open mic where you can phone in anytime. Yeah, once I see your call, I can pause whatever I'm saying and then, take your call and then go back on it onto what I'm saying. So yeah, the rider for the brunch time this afternoon is the new wave of the supposed controversy, or rather, to put it like rightly, supremacy battle between two prominent Yoruba obas that both have historical narrative or evidence to back, their own positions. Alaafin of Oyo and Ooni of Ife. From the moment the Alaafin of Oyo was nominated and his coronation scheduled, and immediately after that as well, it seems like the new Alaafin wanted to kind of like set boundaries because, according to him and people around him, it seems that Ooni of Ife does not know his place in the Yoruba traditional hierarchy. Something they have actually shown, it's sort of like contempt towards each other that we have people have observed, raised concerns, and in fact, they've taken the both of them up on that, like what's going on, and they have both said no, everything is fine, right? While their public utterances seems to negate that. So there is so much to unpack from this, as this is Yoruba, and we all have our biases and sentiments and what have you as well. That's why I am not here to come and tell you history. I'm actually going to be looking into it politically, because that is what I think it is. And you might have your own different opinion about all of this. But the bottom line is to use these kinds of, situation to remind the Yorubas, including myself, why we have become so lost, almost inconsequential in this their project, Nigeria. The reason why it seems like, it seems like we have been sold out, right? And right now, we seem to be just living on old glories. Oh, Yorubas, we used to. So is it this division among these supposed leaders, traditional rulers in Yoruba land, political leaders? They have those they call the opinion molders. It's all these characters that makes up this society. The movement, right? They are charting different kind of like different causes. So there is no way, right? The people will be united to actually push anything meaningful. Gone are the days when the Yorubas will call conferences and discuss the Yoruba issue and decide to make that, right, the general agenda of the Yorubas, whether political or traditional or religious or, economic, whatever leadership that exists in Yoruba land will drive that narrative. And they used to, get into some logical conclusions. Unfortunately, when you probe some of those things too, in the long run, you realize that the unison that some of these guys who are like the leaders, traditional, political, and the rest of them, the unison amongst them, is never really, really in the general interest of the Yorubas, even though most of the agendas are kind of like built on Yoruba this, Yoruba that. And why did I say that? Since 1960, right? Uh, you know, positively or negatively, since we've been part of this contraption, right? We have played our own significant role. Like we have not really been a pushover per se when it comes to their leadership arrangement in that contraption. And that is why I said that for those who united to use Yoruba as their meal ticket, right, it never really reflected on the generality of the Yoruba. So the missing unison, or pretty much like the now well pronounced division that exists, as much as a lot of people would like to gloss over it, can be the real picture can be seen through the actions of these characters. And unfortunately, they were also there when the traditional institution that is so revered in Yoruba land, right, for being part of Nigeria, became so watered down, demystified, and made almost like useless, although they tend to pretend that it's ceremonial, right? So in their constitution, they reduced the traditional rulers in Nigeria, including Yoruba land. They reduced them to ordinary local government civil servants, whether you are paramount ruler, or whether you are this. So majority were just living. Again, cooperation of those who want to tell us about history and the history that makes us who we are, but rather they are on a different path entirely, different path that contradicts, what they want us to believe. I'm a Yoruba man. We are strong people. We have this, very rich history. We are like princes and princesses, like like a princess Balogun would say. It's all these things that they made us believe. But in the long run, when you look at it deeply, you realize that these institutions have become pretty much like political tools, where the rich historical background of theirs are now considered as old glory. They have no kind of capacity to replicate the same history, the history where you actually bond together and say, this is what we want, and that's it. We want Yoruba nation. We want this, stuff that actually makes strong, what do you call strong advocacy if you have united leaders. So, but because they have become political tools in the hands of they are kind of like a political class in the country. So they are mere local government workers in the whole scheme of things. And that is why, and this is because of this Nigeria. So this is why, that is why you have Ooni of Ife is recognized as, like the number one, sort of like a paramount ruler from the western part of Nigeria. Although some will be like, no, historically it shouldn't be like that, blah, 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 blah. But right now, Ooni of Ife, the Sultan of Yokoto, two of them are being made permanent co-chair for the Nigeria traditional ruling council or something, rulers. Meanwhile, somebody like Alaafin of Oyo, who is also kind of like building on his own historical, existence, so to say, no, I can't be under Ooni, but you can't take it off with them in Abuja because probably nobody will listen, right? So in that process, the battle for supremacy is now within these traditional rulers. I can't say much of other places, so I'm just going to speak more of Yoruba land, where supposed prominent ones who are supposed to chart this sort of like unity, kind of to drive it, right? They are on different paths. So what happened? They said, Ooni of Ife, Oba Enitan, Ogunwusi, right, appointed somebody as the Okanlomo of Yoruba land. Now, here is the battle. Okanlomo of Yoruba land, the man is from Ibadan, a businessman. Ooni of Ife is from Osun in Ile-Ife. But Ile-Ife is kind of always referred to, referred to as the source, because it is believed, right, that it was from Ile-Ife that the children of Oduduwa, 7 of them, migrated to, to establish some of the major towns that we have in Yoruba land today. But when you say Yoruba land as well, there are other sub-Yoruba groups, okay, whose their own emergence didn't kind of like come from these 7 children of Oduduwa. Okay, so in the long run, some believes that one of the Oduduwa's children was the one who founded the Oyo Empire, that became Oyo Empire. So therefore, Oyo is still supposed to be under Ife. And that makes Ooni of Ife the head of Yoruba traditional rulers. There are some people with that argument. While others said no. It is true that Oduduwa's children, 7 of them, received a crown each, migrated to go and found different of these towns, including Oyo. But they had to do as children. The real Onirisha is just the chief priest to Oduduwa, was never crowned. So he can't be the father of Oduduwa's children when he didn't bear them. See that line of argument? Now, this supremacy argument has been like, it's been in existence for as long as I can remember. And there are those that there's nothing you can say that will make all sides, both sides with these narratives to agree. But Awolowo did succeed to some extent, which made him, which kind of gave birth to this Yoruba, extensive Yoruba land that you have today. Never used to be like that. All right. So, Ooni of Ife made somebody the Okanlomo of Yoruba land. And they're like, no, you can't. Alaafin for you, this current one, Owuade Akim, said no. By design, Ife, that is meant to be the territory of this Ooni, right, was the Ife local government, which has now kind of like been broken into 3 local government areas. So Ooni of Ife's supremacy or rulership does not pass these 3 local government areas, which so many of the others considered as an insult. Why would you say that? Blah, 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 blah. This argument is on. So they went to Supreme Court, just so you know. They actually went to Supreme Court because of this supremacy thing. That who has the right to use Yoruba land in their own kind of like, operation? Is it Ooni of Ife or Alaafin of Oyo? So the Supreme Court of Nigeria, to complicate things, said, well, it's Alaafin of Oyo. And that particular Supreme Court judgment is what the Alaafin, this current one, is also kind of like using that. Well, this is Nigeria. So you, as Ooni of Ife, you don't have any right to use Yoruba land in your dealing. But you can use Oduduwa, Odua, same Yoruba to Yoruba. So this was the argument behind the scene, that when, in fact, it wasn't this pronounced, because when Owuade was nominated and he was to be crowned, on the day of his coronation, this Ogunwusi, the Ooni of Ife, was there, and everything seems like all right until after. And the new Alaafin of Oyo became Alaafin this year, is it not? Yeah, this year. So the whole controversy that has now led to giving Ooni of Ife 48 hours to withdraw that chieftaincy title he gave to somebody as Okanlomo of Yoruba land. It can only be Okanlomo of Ife. He has no right to appoint anybody as Okanlomo of Yoruba land. that the only person who can appoint any title and give anybody any title in Yoruba land and use that same kind of like name, Yoruba land, is the Alaafin. So sometimes they'll say, Agba Osi, Ìlú bàjẹ́. In the absence of the true elders, the society goes into disorder, lawlessness. And I strongly believe that is what is happening in Yoruba land. We have seen some of these crazy obas too who have kind of like done so much, right? But supremacy between the two prominent supposed obas, right? And like I said, this was after they both denied any sort of supremacy battle between them. Because it is believed that because Ogunwusi has had a very, very strong relationship with them in the north, and therefore the center. So this Alaafin is seeing it as an affront for or need to abuse tradition. Do you get that now? Because this is how it should be. While Ooni is like, what are you talking about? This is where we are. When Owode was to be coronated, I pick up some videos, by the way, just to help this conversation. Like I said, you possibly have your own opinion about that. It's up to you. I haven't even dropped mine yet. But on that is coronation in Oyo. Ogunwusi was there, and everything seemed all right until after.
Ọba Ọọ̀ni Ilé-Ifẹ̀, Ọ̀gájá ní ẹrù ìjẹ̀jẹ̀ tí gbogbo ilẹ̀ sílẹ̀ ọ̀ọ́dún wọlé o. Kábíyèsí sú wọlé ní o, ẹrù àti yún ẹ káàbọ̀. Ọba wa Ọọ̀ni Ilé-Ifẹ̀, ọba Ògúnwùsì láti Ilé-Ifẹ̀.
Ile-Ife. They kept repeating it. And then after that, yeah, and this was in April, by the way, in April. So they met at an occasion. This where I think it was like for Yoruba Obas. Alaafin was already on seat. You know how they do their protocol. Confusion about their protocols to who is the head, who is the leader, right? So Ooni then arrived. Most of the Obas stood up to greet him. You remember that video now? Yeah, this is just a timeline towards that so that you can get to how did they didn't just wake up one morning, like started all of this. I think somehow, right, in my own opinion, through these observations, right, Owode somehow possibly has been raging before he was nominated as Alaafin and then, crowned. He's probably been raging where he was living in Canada with the lifestyle of this Ooni. Somehow, as a royal person, because I don't understand. I mean, I don't know how some people actually feels, right? Before this Ogunwusi came, you will barely see Ooni of Ife anywhere. Barely. Like, so Shijuade was like that. Like, barely. Right? But Ogunwusi, as a young Oba, changed that. Chose his own path to take the palace to the people. People used to go to the palace like it's like a pilgrimage. But Ogunwusi changed that, chose his own way of what you see now. So I wonder what it feels to some of you who are royal, who have royal blood, right? Who are princes and princesses who could become kings all over the world watching. I don't know if some of you admires that or you somehow feel like. So that's what I suspect when it comes to this Owode. Because the rate at which he kind of like ignited the battle between these two prominent stools, it was like immediate. it's not even like, oh, he's been a king for 5 years, 6 years. So somehow, he's no longer taking shit. No. He came